All right, let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another edition of the Yooper Farmer here out in the garage with our garage cigar talks. How's everyone doing? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good tonight. So, let's get some formalities done tonight. We are smoking the Olivia Series O. Nice cigar. A little bit of a rough draw on it. I might have to poke it actually with the poker. And the foot cracked on it. Or not the foot, the cap. The cap actually cracked when I went to go punch it, and it cracked actually. And some of the came off the side. I actually had to then cut it instead of punching it. I think it's a defect in the cigar. It's not dried out at all. So in the humidor I have for my cigars, I actually am quite diligent on making sure the humidity stays pretty constant. I might talk about that in a much later episode, talking about humidity in cigars and what I use and what I recommend. So, not bad. Again, that's one of the ones I got in a variety pack, so who knows? Could be even a leftover cigar. It actually even looks like it's a little rough for wear. I don't know if you can pick that up on the camera, but there's some little... It's not plume on there. Weird. So, not the best quality of cigars put in that variety pack. Or I forgot to show it off. Hopefully I don't spill any. We have Bell's Brewery, the Expedition Stout. A Russian Imperial Stout. I have had this one before. It's pretty tasty. Not like your Irish stouts, but it'll hold up. Like you can see, not a lot of head actually on there. But if I remember correctly, still quite tasty. Yep. Creamy. A little bit of caramel in there. Not bad, not bad. So for tonight, one of the topics I've kind of been teasing and previewing and talking about that, I'll get to that. And, well, I'm going to get to that. Let's talk about dyslexia. Or any of those types of disabilities that we like to lump children into. As I've mentioned, I have dyslexia. I am dyslexic. I'm supposed to say that. I am dyslexic. You don't have a condition. Someone who's paralyzed in a wheelchair, they don't say, I am paralyzed. They say, I have paralysis. You don't say, I am a broken arm. You say, I have a broken arm. So, I was diagnosed actually a couple of times. The first time I was in elementary school, and I remember the actual day in class is burned into my head that I knew something was wrong. The teacher was teaching us rules. You know, the A makes the ah sound. B makes ba. So we were going over the different rules, combining letters, and we got to reading simple words. And the word I got was the. But it didn't make sense. It was t-he, or t-eh. She finally got the th sound. I was like, no, that's th. Th makes a th sound. Okay. And I kept wanting to say the. Or the, ed, thed. And of course, she scolded me. My teacher, I actually remember her very angry that I couldn't say the. But when I was trying to read it, to me, that word was either the or it was thed or that. And I remember just being devastated. I couldn't understand why wasn't this rule applying. It just didn't make sense to me. So that kind of went on for the rest of that year and the next year. I don't remember other exact instances. I just knew that reading was not my thing. Something was up. I knew it wasn't right. My classmates could all read these words. I couldn't. Well, at the time, I went to a school that did the best they could with what they had, but it was a smaller school, so they didn't have the specialists, the disability specialists. They didn't have a disability program or LD, a learning disability program. So my teacher did know something was wrong, but she thought I had a speech impediment. So I do also clearly remember I went to speech therapy. We did some group speech therapy with another couple of children. A nice girl, actually. She was a friend of mine all through school, and even after school I kind of kept touch with her for a little bit. But she actually did have a speech impediment. I didn't. But they thought that's what the problem was. I just didn't know how to speak right. It wasn't until we actually got a new psychiatrist came into the school. Sorry, psychologist. And some grad students from downstate, I believe it was U of M. Maybe it was known as MSU. I think they're the ones that had one of the first learning disability programs in the state. Came to our school and did some testing. I got a bunch of testing. I remember doing the test even. I want to say I was in probably second or third grade. And it was then revealed that, yes, I was dyslexic. So, of course, I knew something was up. I knew I couldn't read like my classmates. I didn't understand the written word. Handwriting was atrocious. Spelling, of course, was a joke. Got many D's and E's and F's on all my spelling tests. Even cheated a handful of times. I learned how to cheat because that was the only way I could get a passing grade and actually feel good about myself. So I will admit that times have changed drastically since I was diagnosed with dyslexia. We didn't have treatments. We had managements. We had accommodations. We very much had stick them in the corners. Our school didn't, and I don't blame the school, of course. At the time, that was the recommendation, what to do. Put them in a total separate classroom, segregate them from their classmates, at least during the English and study hall or grammar periods. I was able to join my classmates for the other topics. Of course, if you don't have a disability, one of the worst things you can have happen to you is to have your disability called out. Well, imagine now, for 1 to 2 hours a day, I am pulled out of my cohort group, out of my class. Kids who I spent the rest of the day with, I was pulled out and disappeared. Of course, everyone asked why, what's going on. That's my embarrassment of being dyslexic really, really hit. And I tried hiding it. It's just I've got a special class. I don't know why they keep pulling me out. It's weird. Learned how to lie a lot. I'm helping the principal. I'm helping another class. Yeah, they just think I'm that advanced. Of course, the teacher didn't want us to be embarrassed or made fun of. So to help us not be embarrassed or made fun of, she made a big presentation in front of the class explaining that me and the few other people who were leaving for an hour a day were dyslexic. We couldn't read. I don't think she used the word dumb, but I know I definitely felt dumb. I definitely got labeled dumb. I got labeled an idiot, a moron, stupid. Made my life a living hell all through elementary school. I was kind of a gangly, awkward boy as it was, throwing a heaping disability, and things just got worse. Now, again, I don't blame the school. At that time, there was very little, if no, understanding. And again, we had college students who'd come in to do experiments. I remember doing so many experiments in our LD. I think it was every spring, we'd have a new group of college kids come in. We had exercises where we'd write in rice or sand to get the tactile and phonetic memory and read words and drawing with crayons on, what are they? They're the plastic sewing mat things that have the little square holes. We did this exercise with the red words again, where as you spell out the word, you say the word, you spell it out, and you slap your arm. Kid you not, here I am slapping my arm until it's red, because we had like 20 of these words we had to do a day. And then you'd say the word and you'd fist bump. I can guarantee you none of that bullshit worked. Not a stinking bit of it. Of course, I was not encouraged to read myself because that would stress me out and cause me problems. So I was actually actively encouraged not to read. I signed up for the BARD program. I think it was around 5th grade, give or take, when I got the BARD, got the cassettes, the books on tape, and I was encouraged to listen to books. Just listen to them. Which, again, we then later found out that was a horrible thing to do. What I should have had is been listening to the book, but also had a physical copy of the book to read along would have been the best way to do it. Then about in middle school, my rebellious phase kicked in. I started to demand that I not go to LD, that I stay with my cohorts and I suffer through English. In high school, I was able to convince my parents, special ed teachers, and everyone else I wasn't having this bull anymore. I was not being skirted away to a classroom where hopefully I would learn compensation techniques, or get dumbed down English. We always joked about that, the dumbed down, the LD English, where we were kept at our grade specific. So if we could only read at like a 2nd grade level, 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish was what our book report was when we were in late elementary, early middle school. I was very disgusted by it, and I'm glad I was. I definitely hid my dyslexia as best I could. It was difficult. I learned a lot of little tricks. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But, yeah. So then I transitioned into normal ed, and I was hoping that when I transitioned in, I could compensate enough that I could kind of maybe have people forget that I was dyslexic. Maybe make them think that it was just a fad, just something I got over. And I was wrong, of course. It's still with me today, and it was with me then. And of course, we had teachers who love to torture us by doing like round-robin readings, where you just all of a sudden you're pointed at, or you go in order and read a paragraph in the book. That is the devil, by the way. If there's any teachers out there doing that, please stop. That is the worst thing you can have a child, even someone who doesn't have a learning disability. A horrible, horrible thing. I learned to compensate, though. Okay. Simple math per paragraph. I would count how many students were before me, predict the teacher's pattern of what type of pattern she was going to go in or he was going to go in, and then look ahead that many paragraphs and start reading that paragraph. Figure out the words, sound them out, look for context clues, what that word might be. Worked pretty good, actually, for a little bit, until 2 asshole students realized this is what I was doing, and they realized they'd read 2 paragraphs just to be nice. I'll read an extra paragraph. Well, crap. And of course, one of them sat right behind me, and the other one, so usually they were first, so sometimes they would. Sometimes they'd only read 1 to kind of catch me off guard. They knew what I was doing. It wasn't a secret. I was reading ahead as best I could. So, yeah, that was utter hell. I definitely went into a kind of a deep lull. Kind of even questioned whether or not I actually wanted to finish high school. Wasn't even worth it. The ridicule, the teasing, even teachers. Some teachers were downright mean. Very judgmental about me and my abilities. Thankfully, I did mention in an earlier video, there was one teacher who was willing to work with me. As long as I put in the effort, he'd give me a better grade. And again, he would tell me, you're not going to get an A. There's just no way A material, but you definitely put in effort that would have gotten you an A had you not had dyslexia. So I'll give you a B minus, C plus. And I was ecstatic. Loved it. It was the best thing ever. So another little interesting part of this story, I'm well into high school, I believe it was my junior year. I'm approached by the local disabilities advocate. I had heard her name. She had in the past actually tried to set up a handful of meetings with me per her job. She meets with everyone who has any disabilities in the school district. She's the cheerleader. She's the one who helps you navigate the state and whatnot and get accommodations. And wonderful, wonderful lady. She calls me up and she says, Trevor, we need to meet. And I tell her, hell no. Not going to happen. So she says, well, how about this? So happens here, I see you're in British Lit this semester. Oh, I am. How about if we meet during Brit Lit and I'll convince your teacher to, I think I got a passing grade or an A on that day's round robin assignment. Well, you're speaking my language. All right, deal. Now, meanwhile, even though I was dyslexic, I got involved in a lot of student government. I was very involved in Boy Scouts. Really started to press myself to be a leader. And I kind of realized that dyslexia could not rule me. I could hide it. I didn't have to be dominated by it. It was my dirty little secret, but I could do great things despite it. And so I was a member of student councils and sat on some the intermediate school district, some advisory committees, and again, Boy Scouts. I was doing a lot of stuff with Boy Scouts then, leading troops and demonstrations and classes. And so she sat down during my English class. I think I even convinced her that we're going to have to meet twice, whether or not we actually meet. I just had to get out of English. And she told me, she said, you know what, we're forming a little group. This group is going to consist of locals who have disabilities, wide-ranging, from physical to mental to emotional to learning, you name it. We're going to form this group of you guys together, and we want you guys to kind of be leaders in the community. And we want you guys to mentor other people with disabilities. I said, well, good for you. 2 thumbs up. That sounds like fun. I hope it works out great for you. Well, she said, you know what? I don't think we can do it without people like you. People who aren't saying, woe is me for your disability. She's like, I have your chart here. I know all about the fact that you are severely dyslexic, but you're demanding that you be in regular ed. You're severely dyslexic, but you are insisting on not being treated differently. Your IEP, your individual education plan, is a joke. Literally what she told me, it's a joke. Someone with your dyslexia, because it was bad. It was very bad. She said should have way more accommodations than you do, but you don't want to be labeled a dyslexic. Guilty. I told her, guilty as charged. Well, she said, I think you have what we need, along with a group of other people. Same thing, people have disabilities, but they're not letting it hold them back or hold them down. We want you guys to form a group and go out and help other people with disabilities. Well, I hummed and hawed. Oh, I don't know about this. And, of course, she had a plan. This was all grant funded by, I believe, the federal government. Maybe it was U of M. We did a bunch of U of M or MSU, students come through and help us with this program. But to sweeten the pot, I got a little bit of a stipend, a free meal. I think it was pizza or something every time, which for the 10th or 11th, I think maybe it was in 10th grade. That was a good deal. and of course, the meeting was during English class. Well, shoot. Okay, I'll join. A great group of ladies and gentlemen I got to work with. Again, every single one of them had some wide-ranging disability. We had autistics, we had people with Tourette's, we had other people with learning disabilities, we had people in wheelchairs, we had people with Down syndrome, we had individuals, a whole spectrum actually, emotional issues. We had some who had different emotional issues. Someone who was partially deaf, was deaf, now had a cochlear device and could hear. Okay, I joined this group. We met up. I was not told that what it was consist of is we were then going to be trained as mentors and as advocates. We took on the group. We named ourselves STOMP, which was Students Trained on Mentoring Peers. The whole idea was we were going to help our fellow classmates accept the fact that they were different. They had a disability. We sat through a bunch of trainings that had speakers come in and talk about the pride. Be proud you're dyslexic. Be proud you're in a wheelchair. It makes you different. It was very interesting. It was very empowering to talk to other people who, I wasn't alone. We learned how to be an advocate, how to make sure others got what they needed and stand up for themselves. The big one really was, though, we talked about being proud, telling people, yes, I'm dyslexic. I'll never forget, we sat through a training, one of the most impactful trainings I ever had. It was eye-opener. This gentleman who had a stutter talked about, how is it that, what's your school day like? Do you have people who tease you? So I raised my hand. Oh, yep. I get teased all the time. I got stories. I got lots and lots of stories. Of course, I wasn't alone. We all did. Every single one of us pretty much were teased relentlessly. And he said, all right, Trevor, come up front. I didn't mind being in front of people. It was weird. I was embarrassed to be myself, but not embarrassed to be out in front of people and to be someone else. I enjoyed acting. I wasn't in front of the stage in many plays. I did a lot of behind-the-scenes work, but I loved giving speeches. I was great at giving these emotional-filled speeches where inflection in your voice, where we start talking to people and projecting. Okay, I'll come play your game. He says, all right, how were you teased? Well, I would sit in English class, start reading a passage, stumble over my words, and have some go, oh, the dumb dyslexic kid can't read. He said, okay, what did you say? Well, I shuddered into myself and tried to deny it or defend myself, tried to punch the kid in the face. He's like, what would happen if you would have... What happened then? Well, then the kid, of course, started calling me dumb, calling me other names, making fun of me further because maybe I'd start to stutter because I was kind of upset by what was happening. He said, yep, makes perfect sense. Does anyone have a story that's different than that, or is all yours pretty much going to be the same? They all nodded. Yeah, that sounds about right. Exchange dyslexia with stutter, change stutter with Tourette's or wheelchair or whatever it might be. You just fill in your disability. He said, Trevor, what would have happened had you said you're right? I am dyslexic. I don't know. I never thought of that. He said, don't you understand that when people, he talked to the whole group, not just to me, of course, this was kind of his lecturing style. He said, don't you understand, if it's true, why not admit it? It takes the power away from the person who's bullying you. To say, yes, yeah, okay, I have Tourette's. Deal with it. I am. Why can't you accept it? And he says it really takes the power away because when someone makes fun of you, they want that reaction. They want you to get upset. They want you to cry. They want you to pull attention away from their inadequacies and bring it more towards yours. That's what they want. And by you defending yourself, and no, I'm not just like, don't make fun of me. Just admit it. See what happens. Clicked. Really did. That resonated with me. Huh. I wonder what would happen. I wonder what would happen. Left that. He gave us some other pointers and tips, of course, about being proud and, it shapes us for who I is. I think I stopped listening, though. Later on, his talk came back in my mind, but at the time, I wondered what would happen. So, what the hell? Might as well give it a try. It's an English class doing the evil round robin. And of course, the gentleman behind me does his little trick where he reads ahead, so I'm lost in my positioning. And I start reading and stumbling my words, and of course he goes and, come on, what are you, dyslexic? I turn around and say, yeah, I am. Do you have a problem with that? Because I don't. That's who I am. And you could have heard a pin drop in that classroom. And I didn't get upset. I didn't yell. I just said matter-of-factly, yes, I am. And I'm fine with that. And then I moved on. Kept reading, stumbling through the passage. It was amazing. He lessened. He still made fun of me. But his words meant less to me all of a sudden. Just admitting, yes, I'm dyslexic. What do you want from me? I'm not dumb. I just can't read as well as you. Deal with it. It was interesting. It was very empowering to me. So much so that from that point on, I was proud. And that was one of the things we taught other people when we were mentors. Be proud of your disability. It makes you different, but that's not a big deal. And it gives you other advantages, which I learned a lot more later in my life. The advantages it gave me. So I would tell people, yes, I'm dyslexic. I'm proud of it. Dyslexic pride. But I didn't know why I was proud. I was just told to be proud of it. It did cause me a lot of problems. Maybe in another video I'll talk about the good old disabilities advocate that I was. Kind of needing an advocate because I let myself be bullied at a job. But that's for a different story. What I realized later in life... Now, if you were before the age of, probably about 26, if you were to tell me that you had a magic cure that could have cured my dyslexia, I would have taken it in a second. But after about the age of 26, I realized dyslexia gave me an advantage over all my peers, over everyone else. Because of my dyslexia, I was who I am now. And that's the true pride in it. It gives me strength. I tell people later on that, for you to get an A, I could put in, you put in, let's say, 2 hours to get an A. I could put in that same 2 hours and I'd get a D. I could put in 3 or 4 hours, maybe bring that D up to a C minus. Put in 5 or 6 hours, that C minus would be a B. At least 8 hours it would take me to get anywhere near a B plus A minus. And there just wasn't that time in the day. So I learned to adapt, and I learned to take shortcuts and be more efficient and effective with my time. I learned how to study better. I learned how to study harder. And that's something then that I would use with English, of course, but then I'd use it in other aspects of my life. Whether that was when I was studying medicine or science or history or anything else I enjoyed. When I got to be into my medic classes, I utilized these techniques to be more effective and more efficient. And I could study quicker and faster than anyone else. It was who I was. It was my brain was, and I'll give it this. This is both the biggest slam, the best compliment I ever got in my life. I was sitting with an old boss of mine, again, story for another time. She had just done this escape room, and apparently the night before failed epically, could not figure it out. She comes up to me, and we were kind of discussing, talking about our day and whatnot. She brought up this escape room, and she said, well, Trevor, I wish we would have had you there. Well, that's kind of weird. Okay, why? Well, your brain just works differently. Like, excuse me? Your brain works differently. It doesn't work like everyone else. It's just weird and different. You would have solved this in a second. horribly, I was offended. And I think I just walked away because that was a horrible thing to tell someone. How my brain's not different. F you. Screw off. Then I thought about it. She's right. I process information differently. I've been told time and time again, I'll come in and look at a situation or a scenario or a problem and come up with a solution that is just out there. But it makes sense. It applies. It works. It's something no one else would have thought of. As far as how I can conceptualize, look at a problem, twist it, take it apart, individualize and compartmentalize it. My brain doesn't work like a lot of people's. And it's almost my superpower. Because I can look at stuff differently and see things in a different way. It allows me to have that think outside the box as almost my daily, I don't have to try, it's just what I do. I don't think like you. Every day I think outside the box because my brain works differently. As standardized education has shown us, you fit inside the box, I don't. And it turns out in the working world, that's something people spend thousands of dollars and many hours to learn how to do. And it's something I do already. I look at everything differently. So now, at my ripe young age that I am, I don't know if I would take the cure for dyslexia. Yeah, I do miss reading books. I have bookshelves full of books that I know I'll never read. I listen to them on tape. I skim through them every now and then, but there are very few books I've honestly read cover to cover. It's depressing. It's difficult to have to constantly rely on spell check or Siri. Jump on my phone. Hey Siri, how do you spell neighbor? That one still catches me to this day. It's frustrating. I have to use accommodations like text to speech if I want to type something correctly and quickly. I can type very, very fast. I'm actually quite a proficient typist. But accurately, I mean, if I'm copying stuff, what's the old typing software? I forget the name of it. Where you sit there and you just type words out. I could kill that program. But if I had to dictate, someone told me something I had to type, but of course there's spelling errors, left, right, and backwards. But I'm not sure. It's who I am. It's how I'm able to solve problems and look at the world a little bit differently. Currently, right now, working at the state, I will be asked to advise on just these random projects. It has nothing to do with my position, but they just kind of want my viewpoint. And now I kind of smile at it. Yeah, my brain does work differently. I will see something in a different light. I can interpret it like no one else because no one else has dyslexia. No one else will come out and admit it if they do. Many of them, I've been told, won't even try to be in the positions I've held because it's just too difficult, too tough, which it does make me sad. That's unfortunate because those of us with dyslexia, or any disability for that matter, I'm not just saying dyslexics are the best. Every single one of them, you have to come at life and come at problems differently. And that difference is amazing. That difference makes you stand out, makes you strong. Again, people spend thousands and thousands of dollars to try to understand and learn and see the world as we do. And again, I don't care if you are dyslexic or if you have a speech impediment or if you're deaf or if you are in a wheelchair or have Tourette's or autism or Down syndrome. You're going to view the world differently. And that, again, think outside the box. How many companies out there? We just want employees who think outside the box. If you're an employer and you want people who think outside the box, fill your queues with as many disableds as you can. Because they will. They'll look at the world differently. And it's something I saw. Ooh, that went right up my nose. It's something I saw when I was in Stomp. Plus, I did work with Special Olympics quite a bit. I got to go to Alaska and Ireland for the International Special Olympics International Games. And yeah, we see things differently. We can experience things differently. We can express ourselves differently. It is a superpower. It really is. Look at the Batmans of the world. There's actually an interesting paper where it talked about Batman's got a form of autism. He made his presentation for it. He's very socially awkward. He sees the world in a different light. The guy actually explained he firmly believes that Batman is autistic or has Asperger's at the bare minimum. So if you do have a disability out there, again, be proud of it. It makes you who you are. And I know there are many people out there that says, you know what, I'd trade it right now. And I can't disagree. I wouldn't sit there and tell you not to. If they did have the magic cure for whatever ails your disability, I would not be the person who would stand in your way and tell you not to do it, not to get that cure. I would, however, sit and tell you to think about it. Stop. This is who you are. Good, bad, the experiences you gained from this difference in life made you who you currently are. Do you not like who you are? Now, you might not like one little part. You might not like the fact that you can't read as well, you can't speak as well, or can't hear as well, walk as well, whatever it might be. But that makes you different. It makes you see the world differently. Again, people pay thousands of dollars, hours and hours of training to learn how to do what you came upon naturally. So I do hope that if you have some sort of disability, you approach it with an air of pride. Admit it. People make fun of you. Well, you stutter. Oh, yeah, I do. F and deal with it. You know, admit it. What's the big deal? Especially my own personal experience. When I start running my own business again, if I ever get to the point where it gets large enough where I can have employees, I'd almost seek out people with disabilities because they'll look at stuff differently. They'll experience life differently. They'll have ideas that I never would have thought of. Whether that's how to access or how to do a process or a procedure. So that's kind of my dyslexic rant. This one's getting pretty long, but as I said, I've been an advocate for years, and I'm very passionate about dyslexia and about any disability. Be proud of what you have. No one else has that. Just like someone who's insanely beautiful. Not a lot of people have that, good, well-shaped body, ripped muscles, whatever it might be. You have something no one else does, and it makes you unique. And so many people out there search for ways to be unique. And you have it built in your persona. You have an edge up on the world. Yeah, life is rough for us. Really is. Sucks. But you know what? I like being different. I like going against the mold, against the grain. And honestly, my dyslexia, now that I have lived longer, I can sit down and honestly say it's made me better. I'm a better person because of it. And I think anyone with a disability could say that. Now, maybe they might have to work out some of the issues they have and come up with a sense of normal, but I look at even like I had a good friend of mine, he's quadriplegic. I mean, talk about being different, and you couldn't hide it to the world. I can hide my dyslexia if I wanted, but I don't. He couldn't. But the things that he did, despite his disability, how he viewed the world, how he experienced the world, was amazing. He was an awesome individual because he took ownership. Yes, I'm in a wheelchair. I steer my wheelchair with a little stick that you breathe, you suck in, breathe, blow, whistle. It was pretty interesting to watch him do it. But he had so many strengths, and everyone I've known with a disability, even ones who haven't fully compensated or realized it, they have something not everyone else has, that the normys have. If nothing else, they're stronger. These individuals are super strong. Anyone with a disability. The strength you gain from it, and should continue to gain from it, is amazing. So, again, I'm getting really long now. This is getting on 40 minutes. I hope if you have a disability, find some pride in it. Realize it makes you who you are. It makes you different. It makes you special. And maybe take a second to reflect on that and see what your abilities, what super abilities your disability gives you, because you've had to compensate and you've had to adapt to fit in this world that wants everyone to fit inside a cookie cutter until the age of 18, when they tell you to get out of the cookie cutter, think outside the box. Anyhow, there's my very rambling speech about dyslexia. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helps a few of you out. Anyway, there might be more on that in the future, of course, because it's me. It's who I am, and I'm proud of it, as you should be of your disabilities if you have one. Anyhow, I hope everyone's doing well. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you later.